And we're live. Welcome to Inside the Labyrinth Podcast, Season 4, Episode 7, the season finale. Really excited for today. As you guys can see, if you're looking um, virtually, it'll be up on YouTube. We have our guest in person. So this is the first in-person episode. Really good friend of mine. I can't wait to hear his story, share his story with you guys. Before we get into that, Jay couldn't make it with us, so that's why we are going. We're doing this in person, and we're going to finish this season strong. Last episode, we had Sweet Burns, so make sure you guys check that out. Great episode where he opens up about his life and talking about his recovery. So, without further ado, I will introduce Bergen County Detective, close friend of mine, Brad W. So, Brad, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Frank. Appreciate it. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, I'm honored to be here. Been following you guys for a little bit, and you guys are putting out a great message out there. With this podcast and with your organization, Reps for Responders.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So, we're going to really get inside Brad's labyrinth today, and going to start out how we usually start, Brad, how high school was for you and kind of how Brad was in high school. Any sports? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? And kind of how was that experience overall for you?
All right. So high school for me was was interesting. I was obviously the big kid, as you could tell, in school. But I was a very emotional kid as well. I got picked on a lot, got bullied, and that obviously hurt my self-esteem and my self-image. So, but one saving grace I had was my size, my athletic ability, and God blessed me with that, and through that I was able to get numerous scholarship offers to go play football. I in high school, not only did I play football, I wrestled, played baseball, did track, both outdoor and indoor, and I was also on the golf team. Believe it or not, I could drive the ball a country mile. You know, um, so I did all. I was well rounded in sports in high school, but football was really my forte. It's really where I excelled, and I was thankful enough and to receive a scholarship or an appointment to the United States Military Academy to go play football. And at first, I had to go to the prep school for a year down at Fort Monmouth. But we'll back up though. But getting back to high school, I had my first drink when I was 15 years old. I'd probably be a sophomore or junior in high school. Say probably about a sophomore. And that was the first time. And I remember it was a warm Miller Lite, right? It was on a Friday evening in the fall. And I remember that was the first time that I felt like I belonged, and it gave me that liquid courage to let my guard down and and actually be myself, and unfortunately I would start using that throughout the rest of my career to as a crutch to let my guard down and to get that liquid courage so I can be outgoing and talk to people and stuff like that, because I suffer from social anxiety and I get really awkward in social situations and stuff like that. So I would rely on the alcohol to break that down. So like I said, I graduated high school. I go on to the United States Military Academy Prep School down in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, play football down there. And I remember going down there. All my friends are going out to regular colleges and stuff like that, and having a normal college experience. I come back from Christmas break, and they're telling me about how much booze they're drinking, how many girls they're banging, and stuff like that. I'm like, I got none of that, right? I'm sleeping on a damn rifle, right? I got nothing, And I remember I just started eating away at me, and I remember I felt like I was missing out on something, Um, and I remember I was struggling down at the prep school, both academically and militarily. I really wasn't grasping the concepts down there and stuff like that. And I remember I had to come home. I came home for Christmas break, and I had to go back at the end of my Christmas break. And I believe it was on a Sunday night. And my father's a funeral director. He owns a funeral home in New Jersey. And I'm sitting, the plan, my father had a visiting that afternoon. And the plan was for my mother to take me down to the prep school to drop me off, right? Prep school is down at exit 105 in the Parkway, not too far away. So the plan was for my mother to drive me down there, drop me off, and she'd come home and everything would be great. Well, I had a different plan. I didn't want to go back. So my mother said, "All right, Brad, we got to go." I said, "No, we're not going." And she started panicking. She's like, "What do you mean we're not going? I'm not going back to school. I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to do anything with this shit. I don't want to be here anymore." Right. So my mother calls my father up, and my father says, "Bring him down, and I'll talk to him." So my father brings me down. My mother brings me down to the funeral home. I sit in the basement with him rather. And I sit there for about an hour, don't say a word. And finally, my father opens his mouth and says, "Brad, I'm going to tell you a story about your grandfather, my father, who fought for this country back in World War II as a British citizen. He fought in the Pacific Theater for 4 years as a medic. And in those 4 years, he came home once. And that was for 30 days for the death of my grandmother. And in those 30 days, he came home. He had a warm bed, was getting fed warm food, right? And, he enjoyed all the freedoms that he was fighting for over there. And he might have banged my mother a couple times, right? And and he goes, after the end of those 30 days, he went back to a place where there was no warm bed, no warm food. His friends were dying around him, and he's getting shot at. And he went back and he wasn't crying like you are right now. He goes, so I'm going to ask you right now, what the fuck are you scared about?" I said, "Nothing, sir." Then I got in the car and I went. And my father taught me a valuable lesson. And that was to never quit on anything. And because my father said, "Brad, you quit now, you're going to quit on everything the rest of your life." And he was very, very true. He was very correct in that statement, except I was able to quit one thing. We'll get into that later. But so I graduate the prep school, go on to West Point, and
Sorry to cut you off, Brad. When you're in the prep school there, were you playing? A few questions for you. Was football involved? And also, go back to that conversation you had with your dad. You don't have that conversation with your dad. Do you think you followed through with the prep school, and what could have been that? If you ever think about, if I didn't go to prep school, what the hell would I have done?
So, football was involved. I was playing football down there. It was like a JUCO team. We played a bunch of junior colleges like Nassau Community College and Lackawanna Junior College. And, we played Navy prep and schools like that. But going back to the question you said, if I didn't have that conversation with my father, would I have followed through? The answer is hell no. I would not have gone back. I would have enrolled into some junior college or some county college or wherever, and who knows what my career path would have been. I definitely wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. Definitely would not be sitting here talking to you. And I always said, people always ask me like, "Hey, how were you able to get through that place?" I go, "It's so strict," and I go, "Not that bad. It's all you're doing is following schedule, right?" I go, I go to people. I said, "How did you go to a regular college? Because you're out all night drinking, and then you got to get up and take a test and go to class and stuff like that." I'm like, I couldn't do that. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise that I actually went to school where I went to school, right? So yeah, so I definitely would not be here today. Definitely would not have followed through with all that. So I get to West Point, and I went to class in 2004, and I obviously being up there, you're in a stressful environment. And, back in the day, we had what were the old tower computers, not the little laptops that we have today, but we had like the big tower computers. And each cadet was given one. And what I would do is, being the great alcoholic that I was, back then, I would take a screwdriver, unscrew the case from the tower computer and hide booze in my computer, right? Because we had health and welfare inspections. They would never be able to find them, and then I would cut, my medicine cabinet out of the wall and hang booze in there and stuff like that. Again, they would never be able to find it. So I needed that just to sometimes take the edge off and stuff like that. Because, you're waking up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning and you're going all day until like 12:30 at night, and in the season, you're not getting back to your room, especially on Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, you're not getting back to your room till 9 o'clock at night. After it's all said and done, you still got to do your homework that the rest of your classmates have had 2 hours extra head start on. But, in the end, it was all worth it, and then as my, years went on, I get done playing football my senior year, and, I got to conform to Army height weight standards, and I got to pass a PT test. And so I, being the large individual that I am right now, it was very hard. Running is not my sport, right? I'm not a long distance runner. I can run short distances. I can do sprints. I can do stuff like that, but I can't run long distances. So we had to do a 2-mile run, and you had to do it in 16 minutes and 36 seconds. And I missed a 2-mile run by 51 seconds, and they ended up kicking me out of the academy. And that was the turning point in my life when everything started going downhill, because I felt like a failure. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I had all these emotions running through my brain, and at the same time, I'm feeling guilt because the rest of my classmates are going over and fighting for this great country, and I'm not able to. That's all I wanted to do. Ever since 9/11 hit, that's all I wanted to do. And I'm getting death notifications of classmates, and it's hitting me hard. And the way I would cope with it was I would just keep drinking. I would just drink more and more and more. And I really didn't hold a job after I got out of college. I was doing odd jobs. Remember I was working on a loading dock for Pearson Education, loading books into a truck. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I went to school. I got a West Point education. What the fuck am I doing with myself? But again, you have to be humbled sometimes, and I was working for my dad at the funeral home, and finally I made a decision, to go get into law enforcement. And I made that decision, and I'm very happy that I did, because all I wanted to do was help people, right, and defend people. And if I couldn't do that overseas, I wanted to do that here stateside. So that's what I ended up doing, and I entered the police academy on August 27th, 2007, the Port Authority Police Academy, class 109. And I had it was a great experience there. I remember the first day, the instructors are yelling at me, going all up and down me, because I'm the biggest guy there, trying to make an example out of me. And it's not fazing me. I'm just literally laughing at them. And then when they found out where I went to college, it like clicked in their head, like, oh, no wonder why this kid's not, he's not, flinching at anything we're saying to him. But, that was a good experience. And then I did, after that, I did 4.5 years down in Port Newark, working down there. And all during this time, my drinking keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. Getting shore houses down the Jersey Shore, going to DJs, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, then going to work on Monday morning. Just not a care in the world, not like a complete total asshole and no regard for anyone else, right? And as my career started going, keep going, I wanted to get out of where I was working, and go on to a bigger and better department, so to speak. And I ended up where I'm at now, and it was the greatest move. And that's actually tomorrow will be 9 years that I've actually been there, and it's the greatest move I ever made in my life, because if I didn't make this move to the department where I'm at now, I sure as hell will not be here talking to you because I'd probably be dead. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But so I get hired there, and I get put into the special victims unit. And for those of you that don't know, special victims units, we investigate sexual assaults, crimes of sexual nature, and child abuse. And that was probably one of the most, you see a lot of vicarious trauma there because you're listening to a lot of young kids describe to you in a forensic interview how they've been sexually assaulted, right? Or how they've been physically beaten or neglected. And it takes a toll on you. It takes a special person to work in that squad, I always say, because you have to have both the compassion, right? And you also have to be kind to the suspect because they have what you want, and that's a confession, right? So you gotta be very, very nice to them, knowing full well what they just the heinous act that they just committed to this young child. And that started wearing on me a little bit. I remember one case that stands out with me is a case where I had a 9-month-old baby. It was Valentine's Day 2014. A 9-month-old baby goes to a hospital in Bergen County and is overdosing on heroin, right? And the kid had coded 3 times on the way to the hospital. And long story short, come to find out that the mother and the boyfriend were snorting heroin. And they dropped an empty wax paper fold in the ground. And the 9-month-old goes around, crawls around, picks it up, puts it in his mouth. Come to find out that this bag was laced with fentanyl. And there was enough residue in that bag to give that kid an overdose. And so I interviewed the mother. She's lying to me. Interview the boyfriend. And he is this little shit, wise ass, right? Obviously, he's a heroin addict, and I wanted to just launch him through the wall, but obviously, you can't. But I just had so much anger and hatred towards him for what he did to this child. It almost overtook me, and thank God it didn't. So, and I remember I had to go see the child was transferred to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. And I remember walking into the PICU at Columbia Press and seeing his baby, 9 months old, intubated on a ventilator, all hooked up to all these machines, laying there motionless. It looks like a doll laying in the bed. And that was the first time I ever cried on the job. And I literally had to walk out of the room and go to the bathroom and just let it all out. Because I didn't want my sergeant or I didn't want to see the nurses see me cry. But I said, how could someone do this to an innocent child like this? And I drank a lot over that one. And people would always ask me how do you deal with listening to these cases, and investigating these cases? I said, man, I got two very close friends that I rely on. And that's Tito's and John Jameson, and that's what I would drink. I would drink Tito's and Jameson, and around this time, I ended up getting married. And at first, everything's good because her and I are going out. We're spending time with our friends and just doing that. And, I'm the immature one and she's a mature one. She knows when to shut it down. Me, I don't. Right. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I just keep going and going and going. And so she ends up getting pregnant. And we end up having our first child in June 5th of 2015. And I remember I resented the birth of my son, JJ, because I was so selfish. And I was like, how am I supposed to change? You're like, buddy, you're coming into my world, right? And you expect me to change my actions, my habits for you? Doesn't work that way, bud. And I can honestly say, and that I never woke up to change him, never woke up to feed him. never wanted to do any of those things. And looking back on it, I regret not doing those things because I'll never have that opportunity ever again. That's time that I can't get back, and I was checked out with my kids. I was so focused on work and providing for my family because I thought that's what being a father was, being able to provide for your family. No, being a father is like being there for them, right? And being a role model for them and establishing that relationship with them, and I didn't do that. And that's one of my biggest regrets that I have as a result of my disease was that I didn't spend those early years connecting with my children, and now I see why they're more attached to my wife than they are to me. So, I keep going and yeah.
So first of all, thanks, Brad, for your courage and honesty right there, because that stuff is not easy to say, man. So I give you props to that. So going back to that 2014 time frame real quick, when you kind of, said, I don't know if it was Jose or Jack or whoever it was, and with your wife. Now then, when that happened, like when you guys were, first got married, did she ever say anything to you or in your mind about drinking and alcoholism as in, did you ever look in the mirror and say, oh, Brad, because for me, if I blacked out or whatever, I would wake up and feel really guilty and ashamed, but I don't know of what,
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, someone says, you're an alcoholic. Everyone thinks of people that an alcoholic is the homeless man on the corner of Webster Avenue in the Bronx or somewhere in Jersey with a paper bag,
Mm-hmm.
So did that ever cross your mind, or did your wife ever say, Brad, you're drinking too much? That early stage of the marriage and everything, and that providing of the family with the money. I'm working so we can have a nice house, so we can do these vacations or have the shore house. And I really like how you said, you know, that's not what it's about. It's actually physically being there. And a lot of guys on the job will get caught up in the overtime and, you know, they'll miss a birthday or they'll miss something. Oh, there's next year. But we don't know if there's going to be next year. And we don't know what if the same mindset is going to change. So kind of want to see your thought process about all that.
So my wife never told me that in the beginning that I was an alcoholic, and I never saw myself as an alcoholic, because I was surrounding myself with other alcoholics. So we were acting the same way. So I'm like, oh, it's normal. I'm acting just like Brian. I'm just acting just like Brandon. It's all the same, right? So, um, she never made mention to me about anything like that. And I come to find out that later on, she was actually scared of me to say anything, and that hurt. Because the last thing I want is my family to be scared of me. I'm supposed to be their protector, right? And guardian. And I'm not supposed to strike fear into them. And when she told me that, that she was scared of me. My kids, I think, were a little too young to verbalize it at the time, but I'm sure they were because all they saw was daddy screaming. That my in-laws were scared of me, right? And that's not good, and it's one of the biggest things that I've changed. Like I don't want anyone to be scared of me except for someone on the other side of the door when I'm going through it, but the but you're also talking about the work and being there for your family. All right, I'm an addict. Okay, so whether it be with compulsive buying, whether it be with alcohol, which was my biggest one, was my downfall, right? Thank God I never got into gambling. All right. Because Christ, I'd be homeless. All right. But the biggest thing I saw that I was a workaholic, and I always put work in front of my family. And to those guys that are out there listening, girls that are out there listening, who might be on the job or just getting on the job, don't ever do that. Don't ever put your family in front of the job, because you know what? You are nothing but a tax ID number to them. You are nothing but a badge number to them. You are replaceable. Okay. They have 1,000 new recruits coming in every single class, right? You will be replaced after your 20 years are done. Okay. And, talking about missing holidays and birthdays and stuff like that. I missed the last Thanksgiving that I had with my grandfather because of work. Right. And I regret that. And it wasn't for some legit case or anything like that. It was for some girl who got a little too drunk and made the wrong decision. And for that, I miss Thanksgiving dinner with my grandfather, the last one I'll ever have with him. Now like 22 months ago, when everything came to a head, I was working 6-7 days a week. I'd be picking up extra slots on the SWAT truck, just to make money, right? Just to make money. And I also did it for a reason, because I didn't want to be home. I didn't want to be around the chaos at home, because for some reason, I was more comfortable being in a high stress situation at work than I was at being home. And it's because we're trained to deal with those high stress situations at work. Through our trainings at the academy and our on the job training, we become inoculated to that, right? And I never got it. I never understood how I never was able to cope with that stuff at home, right? But now I can. And one of the biggest things that I, biggest things that I have at work, right, in my cubicle, I have all my desk set up, and off to the side, I have a Paw Patrol 5-minute storybook. There's like 7 different stories in it, right? And it's a book I received from a friend of mine at the last rehab I was at. And it just so happened to be the same book that I would read to my boys every single night when I would put them to bed. And I have that on my desk. And I keep it there as a reminder that when I start getting too much into my work, I look at that and remind myself what's more important in life. It's my family, right? Yes, doing your work, you have a responsibility to get your job done, to do your work, right? But listen, don't neglect your family, right? Because they're the ones who are going to be there for you through the thick and thin. They're going to be there for you when you hit rock bottom, right? And they're going to be the ones there who are going to love you unconditionally, and thank God that was the case for me, and but yeah, so that's it. That's what I got.
Thanks, Brad. And congrats on the 22 months. That's huge. Now that 22 months, maybe we can, if the first responder or cops struggling out there, or anybody, Brad's talking about, 22 months sober from alcoholism, maybe take us through kind of how you really, what we talk about surrender. What was that? What was that? What was that? Not that day, but where Brad was like, you know what? All right, I have to surrender, because I know that, it's like you want to call for backup, but you don't want to, because you think you can handle it by yourself out there, type of deal. So kind of take us through that. Okay, I'm going to surrender phase because I have to. What Brad just, basically just spoke about was, not even for, he had to surrender for himself, but his family, because he almost lost everything from the job and from the alcoholism and the stress of the job, and his coping skills were not his coping skills were 22 months ago. So kind of take us through that surrendering, Brad, where, and if you guys, a lot of our listeners listen through Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everything, so not gonna watch it on YouTube, but you look at Brad, he's kind of looks like the mountain from Game of Thrones, Thor. I mean, he's like 6'8". I don't know, he is 280 now. He looks pretty slim, and I know he was hurt his knee, but with big, pulling like 700-pound deadlift, tattoos, and everything. So you look at him, and you definitely don't put the voice to the very soft-spoken Brad. So I want to give you guys kind of, what he is right next to me, literally an arm length away. So kind of bring us through that, Brad, where he said, "Fuck it, I have to surrender."
So I'll take you back to basically it's going to be the spring summer of 2018. I had gotten beginning of 2018. I got jammed up at work, and I got my gun and badge taken away from me and got knocked over 5 vacation days because of an incident at a bar where I was drunk and acting like an idiot. And I made a comment saying that this should be a wake up call to me that I need to stop drinking. And my sergeant heard that, and she told my lieutenant. My lieutenant told my captain. My captain told my chief. And I get brought in, and I get my gun and badge taken from me. And if any of the listeners out there have ever gotten their gun and badge taken from you, that's like it's the equivalent of getting your balls cut off, right? Because that's your identity as a cop, right? And it shouldn't be. Okay. All it is a piece of polymer plastic and stainless steel and a cheap piece of tin that goes in your chest. That's all it is, right? It should not be your identity, right? So I was sober for 9 months. I was for 3 months, and then my wife tells me like, "Hey, let's go out to dinner." Like, all right, by this time I got my gun and badge back, and I was back to full duty, but not in the squad where I was. So I get back full duty, and I go out to dinner with my wife. And while I'm at dinner, I'm being good. She goes, Brad, you've been doing so well. Why don't you just order a glass of wine? I ordered lamb chop for dinner or something like that. She's like, why don't you just order a glass of wine? I'm like, yeah, but she gave me the go ahead. I got the green light. Let's go. So I ordered a glass of wine, and I legit take one sip, and in walks one of my bosses at work. And I said, fuck, put it down, get rid of this. She chugged the glass, put it on the busboy that was walking, put it on his tray, and that was it. That one sip, 8 months later, landed me in rehab because I took off like a thoroughbred coming out of the gate. I would go down to the local Dunkin' Donuts in my town, get the Arnold Palmer, right? I drink half of it and then go to the next door to the liquor store, take a pint of Tito's and pour the pint in there and be walking around the house drinking that all day long, drinking John Daly's. I started doing that like once or twice a day. Ended up doing that like 5 times a day. It's not normal. Then I ended up going on a family vacation down to LBI with my wife and her family, and we ended up getting into a big blowout argument, fight, and was not good. It was not good at all. And that's what my wife told me. She gave me the ultimatum. It was like, you need to go to AA. I said, fine, I'll go to AA for you. Not knowing anything what AA was about. So I walk into my first meeting. It's a Monday night meeting, 7:00. I walk in, listen to all these stories. I remember saying to myself, I'm not like these people. I can control my drinking, right? And I'm just like, and looking back on it now, like, Brad, you are like the prime candidate for AA, right? And I always laugh at that because that's what everyone says their first time when they walk into a room. Oh, I don't belong here. I'm not like them. Yes, you are. If you say that, you are, right? So I So I went to one meeting. I came home. And I told my wife, I'm cured. I'm good. I don't need to go anymore. She's like, don't like you have to go like every day, don't you? Like, no, I went once. Like, I got the magic cure. I'm good to go. But things just started getting worse, worse, worse. I ended up getting kicked out of my house, moved back in with my parents, and then in November, like the Monday after Thanksgiving in 2018, I ended up getting hit by a car down in Camden during work, and that is what really catapulted me going forward for the next month. That's when I started like stopping off at work after work, picking up 1 pint of Jameson, then picking up 2 pints, then picking up 3 pints, and finishing that 1 pint in a 2-minute drive that it took me to get from the liquor store to my house. And then having those other 2 on standby, or I put them throughout the house so I can say, oh, I'm just going upstairs to go grab something real quick. And I go upstairs, take a swig. My wife started marking the bottles, in the liquor cabinet where they were, because I was, one thing I hated tequila, right? And my wife started noticing that her Cabo Wabo kept on going down, 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 down. And she hadn't had a margarita in like 6 months. So finally, she called me out on it. She's like, have you been drinking my tequila? I go, no, what are you talking about? I hate tequila. I get sick on it. And well, that was me just drinking tequila. And I had bottles hidden all over the house. And I remember it was my last drink is December 25th, 2018. And I remember I had to I was on the SWAT truck that day because I was on the SWAT team at this time, right? And I had to go and drive around the county. And I had it on the 26th. So I had to be up at like 7. So I get home. I tell my wife, I'm like, I'm going home early. She stayed down by her parents, and I get home. And we had the Ring doorbell, right? And just recently installed in our front door. And me being the smart guy that I am, I come home and then I walk out the front door again, and I don't come home till 3:00 in the morning. And my wife gets the alert at me 3:00 in the morning, sees me stumbling into the front door. She doesn't say anything to me the next day. She says something to me on the 27th, and she goes to me, and she came home from work, and I just got done putting my son's bike together that my in-laws had gotten him for Christmas. He's all happy, he's riding it around and stuff like that. And my wife comes home, puts my son to sleep for his nap, and she tells me, she goes, Brad, I want a divorce. And the only thing I thought of was me losing my children and not being able to see them anymore. And it crushed me. It absolutely crushed me. Again, the feelings of not being good enough come back to my mind, being a failure come back into my mind. And again, just the self-hatred just takes over. And I didn't want to live. I did not want to live anymore. And so I'm emotional. I'm crying, bawling hysterically. I jump into the car and I drive. And I remember sending her a text message saying, I'm sorry. I love you. You're not going to have to deal with me anymore. And I shut off my phones. And I was going to drive to the top of to the lookout of this mountain. And was just going to sit up there. And, I wanted to shoot myself. And I get to the top. And I don't know what the hell it was, divine intervention, but something told me to turn my phone on. And I turn my phone on and I see all these text messages from my wife saying, where are you? Call me, and all this stuff. So I pick up the phone and I call her. I go, what's up? She's hysterical crying. She's like, where are you? I go, I tell her where I'm at. And she's like, the cops are here. And I just said, what the fuck did you just do? Oh, you just ruined my career. See, that right there shows you how self-centered I was and how work-driven I was, where all I cared about was a job. And my response to my wife making a phone call for me was, you just ruined my career. No, you dumb idiot. She just saved your life. And it took me a while to realize that. So I do a voluntary, admission to a hospital. Stay there for a couple days, and the guys that we worked on, guys that train us in a SWAT team, company called Tomahawk. They're down in Nashville. They have a charitable organization associated with them, and they're a great bunch of guys, a bunch of retired Navy spec op guys and a couple Army spec op guys. And they have connections with a bunch of organizations and a bunch of facilities all over the country. And one of which is a place called Warrior's Heart out in Bandera, Texas. So one of the CEOs of the company of Tomahawk, a gentleman by the name of Wally, we'll call him Wally, makes a phone call to one of the founders of Warrior's Heart. His name is Tom Spooner, who's a retired Army special operations, and makes a phone call, and I get in there on January 1st, 2019. I am client number 1 for 2019. And I spent the next 42 days there. And that was the first time in my life that I felt normal, because I was surrounded by a bunch of people who were all cut from the same cloth. We're all of the warrior community, warrior mindset. It's only active duty military, veterans, and first responders. And it's great. I developed a very, very strong relationship with both my therapists out there, and they had a lot of things to offer too, other than just the addiction recovery and the mental therapy too. They had other things to help you with your journey, such as they had a wood shop, right, where I got to make a couple wooden flags, one of which I made for my chief, and one of which I made for my SWAT team. And I say, the reason why I made one for my chief was because if it wasn't for that man, again, I wouldn't be standing here today, because they were going to send me to a place down in Florida. And my chief put the brakes on that. He said, no, we got to send Brad to a place where he's surrounded by people like him. Brad doesn't need to be listening to, some young kid talk about how, they didn't get their way, and, also now they're an addict, right? He needs to talk to people. He needs to be around people that have seen some stuff and been through some shit, and that Brad can relate to, and he had that forward thinking. And honestly, if it wasn't for him, I would not be here today. And I can honestly say, without a doubt, he is the best leader I ever served under. And I'm very, very grateful for him. So, I spend my, at least by making him a flag, it's the least I could do for him, then he actually was very, very thankful I did that. And he has it hanging in his office. So, then they had a metal shop. You can make, so I made like 2 tomahawks out there. I made a tomahawk for my team as well. And I made a tomahawk for a guy, Wally, who made the phone call. Right. And, but one awesome thing that they had there too was they had CrossFit as an option. Right. So across the highway from where Warrior's Heart was, Warrior's Heart, I want to say, is on like a 745 acre ranch, right? Cattle ranch out in the hill country of Bandera, Texas. And across the highway from it is this CrossFit place called Uber CrossFit. And from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock every single day, I'd be in the box at the CrossFit gym, right? And just working my ass off. And that's what I needed, right? I needed to get those endorphins going again from working out, and just feeling good about yourself, and I did. I did not miss a single day of CrossFit while I was there. I'm not gonna lie to you. The first week or two, I couldn't sit down and take a shit, right? But after that, all the soreness wore off, and I was feeling great. And I still keep in touch with the owner there, Sylvia. I still keep in touch with her. Every now and then we send each other text messages. But that place was great. Warrior's Heart was phenomenal. And but one thing, you talk about letting go. I was able to let go of the alcohol, right? I was able to surrender the alcohol. One of the things, but I wasn't able to surrender was my anger, resentment, and hatred. And that's what came to bite me in the ass. Because when I got back from Warrior's Heart, I had to go in for surgery for my knee for when I got hurt. So I had to go in for the surgery, and my wife told me, she goes, "Hey, listen, when you get out of the surgery, you don't bother coming home. Don't come home. Just go to your parents' house." I'm like, okay. So I come home, and she says, I'm sorry. So I go to my parents' house, and a week later, my house is on the market. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? She's like, well, I don't want to live here anymore. All right. So the anger and the resentment just keeps getting fueled and fueled and fueled. And at this point, I'm feeling very depressed and angry and stuff like that. And I'm doing things that we're separated, right? And I'm doing things that, looking back on it, I never should have done, right? Talking, and doing a lot of things that are out of character for me, talking to different girls and stuff like that. And that became my vice, and how to deal with things. And ended up selling our house. I ended up moving into a 1-bedroom apartment, and it wasn't good. I was not in a good place. And I just fell into a deep depression. And eventually it all came to a head in December of 2019 when a phone call was made to my department by one of the individuals that by an anonymous individual, right, saying that I was threatening my life. So I was brought in. So now I don't know this phone call's made. I go to an AA meeting on that. It was a Monday, December 9th, I believe it was. And I go to that meeting, a noon meeting that I normally go to every day. And this feeling comes over me that I need to just let everything get off my chest. Because at this point, I'm still lying to people. I'm lying to myself, lying to my family, lying to my therapist. I am saying everything's all good. I'm telling people what I think they want to hear, right? And so I finally get up and I say, listen, I don't want to live this lie. I want to live a transparent life. I want to be honest. I want to be upfront. I want to be happy. And I break down there in a meeting. And at the end of the meeting, this individual comes on up, and a big dude, right? He grabs me, and he's like, Brad, I got to tell you something. He goes, you got to become a prisoner. And what do you mean? He goes, you know about prisoners, right? You're a cop. You tell them when to eat, when to sleep, when to go to the bathroom, when to work out, when to do whatever, everything. You tell them what they had to do, right? He goes, well, you need to become a prisoner to God. God needs to tell you when to do everything. I was like, wow, that made sense, right? The light bulb went off my head. And he goes, what you need to do is you need to talk to Tyler. And I didn't know who he was. I knew there's a kid that I work with, right? His name's Tyler, and he's a very, very spiritual kid. love him to death, right? Him and I are very good friends. And he goes, you need to talk to Tyler. So I'm like, all right. I mean, first off, how do you know that I know Tyler? Right? How do you know him? Right? So it was weird, right? So I call him up and I explain to him everything. And he goes, Brad, you're never going to guess what happened. I go, what? It's like, I was praying for you this past weekend. And I was praying, and God came to me and said that if I were to give up my will and my thinking and my life up to him, that he would give me a life beyond my wildest dreams, and I'd be doing something helping out cops and veterans. I said, all right, Tyler, you're full of shit, whatever, right? So at this point now, I get called into my chief's office, and he brings me and he asks me, how you doing? Now in there, I have the deputy chief, my SWAT commander, sergeant from IA. You know, anytime you see a sergeant from IA, your asshole starts puckering. You're like, shit, what the hell happened now? Right? So I got these individuals in there, and my chief asks me, how you doing? I'm good, chief. I'm going to ask you again, how are you doing? And I just broke down. I said, I'm not good. And again, if it wasn't for that man, I would not be here today. It's amazing when you understand and you finally realize why God puts people in your life. I now know why God put my chief in my life and why I transferred to this job where I'm at now, because he is he gets it. He understands. And he got me in to go see the doctor. Went and saw the doctor. I booked a flight out to talk to a gentleman by the name of Bill Mazer as well. He is a former retired Atlantic City cop who works for Acadia Health now, who got me into another place that I went to called Sierra Tucson. So that night, right after I get done with this whole thing, I call my buddy Tyler up and say, hey, Tyler, you know, I need to talk to you, dude. I tell him what happened. He's like, you ready to surrender? I go, dude, surrender's not my vocabulary, right? I don't wave the white flag. So I was like, well, you gotta. So he said, I'm coming over tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. Comes on over the next morning, 8 o'clock. He's got 2 Bibles in his hand, 2 coffees. He's like, here you go, and here you go. Right. And I hit my knees. I gave my life up to God. That was on December 10th, 2019. And ever since that day, my life has changed dramatically. Ended up going to Sierra Tucson. And did EMDR treatment out there, did TMS therapy out there, equine therapy, and, you know, a whole bunch of stuff. And I just came back a different individual, you know. Then I come back, I'm ready to go to work. I did like 6-8 weeks of IOP at home. Then I'm ready to come back to work, and then COVID hits. And it was, I'm not minimizing the effect of COVID on other people in this country or in the world, right? Some bad shit that we went through, all as a world as a whole, right? But for me, COVID was a blessing. And I'm going to say this, the reason why. It gave me time to work on myself. The gyms were shut down. That's my only outlet, right? The gyms were shut down. All face-to-face AA meetings were shut down. We're basically left to sit in our houses, right, and do nothing. Well, but you have to socially distance, right? So what better way to socially distance than to be outside, right? So what I started doing was I started going fly fishing every day, because at the department I work at, we adjust our schedules to be in 1 week on, 2 weeks off. So those 2 weeks off, I was fly fishing every day. Still going to my therapist, right? Still attending my AA meetings, because they're all via Zoom now, right? and I'm spending 12 hours a day fly fishing. I was able to ground myself. I was able to do more meditation, more praying, right, than ever before in my life. And by that happening to me, when it happened, that was God's way of saying, Brad, you're not ready yet. You just need a little bit more fine tuning, and then I'm going to put you back into this situation. Okay. And that's what happened. A couple months went by. We get back to normalcy. I'm still, I'm back to work. I'm working in an admin position. Then all of a sudden, a transfer list comes on out, and it goes on the list says you're going to major crimes. And I'm like, what? And I broke down crying, because never in a million years would I have seen myself in a unit such as that. Which just shows you that it showed me that I had regained the trust of my command staff. And they weren't going to put me in a spot where I was going to fail. And I'm actually, and I love the spot that I'm in right now. Absolutely love it. And then a couple of weeks ago, I get another phone call saying that I'm back on the SWAT team. And again, that is something that I never, ever could have possibly thought was going to happen. But again, through the grace of God and continuing to do the next right thing and just listening to him and following his cues and not pushing our own agenda and our will. That's how it happened. And to tell the listeners out there that, listen, if you're going through some shit right now, it's not going to be like that forever. Things will change. But in that moment, it may seem like an eternity. 22 months ago, 22 months for me has gone by pretty fast. It has gone by pretty fast, but sometimes it seems like it was like dragging ass, right? But I tell you what, I wouldn't have traded this scenario for anything else in the world, because it made me the person I am today. And I'm a person that loves himself. And 22 months ago, I didn't. And in order to love someone else, you need to first love yourself. And this is the first time that I can actually love someone other than myself. And I'm very grateful for that, because I never had that before. And, just very grateful for everything the Lord has bestowed upon me. The good, the bad, the indifferent, everything. And it's all.
Wow. I mean, this is exactly what this podcast is all about. And, the program, the Rest for Responders program is that Brad just, put everything out on the line, 4th and 1, he just put it out there and laid his heart down. Like Brad and guys like myself, like we've been there. And, our program is, we don't want you to get to that rock bottom. We don't want you to get to that dark hole. We want to prevent that. So if anyone is, suffering, or not even suffering, but getting to that point where they're bothered by things, and if it's drinking too much or at work, and, reach out to myself, our program, Brad, and let's try to get you on the right track so you don't have to hit rock bottom. And even if you do hit rock bottom, like Brad just said, it's not forever. And I say that all the time, that depression and alcoholism, it's not you, right? It's only you if you let it. It's not you forever. But guys like Brad, myself, and all of our staff at Reps, we want to prevent that by happening. And I think, like Brad said, if he didn't surrender, I don't think he'd be sitting right next to me. He wouldn't be back on his SWAT team, the major crimes, any of that. Who knows? And I'd be the same way. It's funny because back in 2018, the same time Brad was going through his stuff, I was going through my stuff, and I thought I was the only one out there. I remember sitting in the hospital on Christmas Day, 2018. I got shampoo, I got a bar of soap, and I got a black hat for Christmas at the hospital, like a beanie. And I'm like, holy shit, what a fake Christmas tree. And this was it. But we were able to surrender and get through that. So anyone listening, we'll have all our contact information there. Please reach out. So first of all, Brad, thanks for coming on the show. And it was, definitely take this with me today and kept me sober. But before we wrap up, we're going to ask you.
I actually want to say one thing.
Yeah.
So remember I was telling you about, and this doesn't show you the power of my higher power, the power of forgiveness, and the power of the program. So remember that kid I was telling you about that overdosed, an 9-month-old. That boyfriend, he actually found out that I was in the program in recovery. He got my number. He reached out to me, and he goes, and that was on June 2nd of 2019. He reached out to me and he goes, "Hey Brad, I hear you're going through some shit. I'm here. I got your back. Whatever you need, I'm gonna help you out." And I broke down and cried because I was, number one, that totally caught me off guard, and number two is that just shows you the power that God has to change someone, right? If you want to change. And him and I are best friends now. We go fishing together. Actually, this past year on February 14th, before COVID hit, we were actually sitting next to each other at an AA meeting. And I looked over to him. I said, "Happy birthday, sweetheart." Right? I said, "Happy anniversary, sweetheart." Right? That's what I said to him. And he starts laughing. And I said, "Would you have thought six years ago that we'd be sitting together in this room right now?" He goes, "Absolutely not." And just shows you the power of God and what he can do for people if you let him do it. So that's it.
Incredible. Like we said, it doesn't last forever, and we're changing and growing all the time, for the good or for the bad. So that's what Brad kind of just brought up. So I'm going to kick the mic back over to Brad. We're going to ask him a few personal questions to get you guys to let the listeners to get to know Brad a little more. So Brad, start with some easy questions first. Your favorite movie or two? What are you going with?
Favorite movie, without a doubt, Rudy. I'm a big Notre Dame fan. And I still cry no matter how many times I watch the movie. I still cry like 7 times on cue, right, during that movie. And if you're a man and you're not crying during that movie, you need to check yourself. All right. The second movie is probably got to be Goodfellas. I'm gonna say, yeah.
Classics. One meal to eat for the rest of your life, good or healthy, every single day. What are you going with?
Medium rare ribeye. That's it. Medium rare ribeye.
What else you get with it? Besides
medium rare ribeye. That's it. That's it. There's more ribeye.
Oh, I love it. One main lift to do for the rest of your life, and every day you wake up, recovery is okay. So you're not going to be destroyed, central nervous system, your soreness. One main lift and one accessory lift to do every day if you only had 2 options.
Main lift, deadlifts. I would do deadlifts for the rest of my life. Accessory lift, ego buys, curls.
For the girls,
yeah,
baby.
Yeah.
Curls for the girls. One person to meet, to hang out with for the day, dead or alive, throughout history, who would it be?
My grandfather, Walter Wadby. Never had the chance to speak with him. I have one picture of him holding me when I was about 8 months old, but never had the chance to speak with him. And I would have loved to learn about him and the rest of my family, where they came from.
Oh man, I love that. We haven't gotten a family member yet after, I don't even know, we're on 28, 29 episodes. There's always someone else, like, that's really powerful stuff. Last question. If after the podcast we walk outside, I open up my garage and there's a tarp, I'm like, yo, Brad, I lift up the tarp and it's a time machine. You can go anywhere in time, Well, now we added in the future because someone asked if they can go to the future. So you can go back 20 years ago. You can go back 200 years ago. You can go back 20 days ago or 20 years in the future. Where are you going?
I would go back to June 26th, 2020. No, I'm sorry, June 26th, 2000. That was my, I believe that was my R day at West Point, and I would start over from there.
And there we have it, folks. Detective Brad W. of Bergen County. Brad, thanks for your strength, experience, hope, your resiliency, and I think this podcast is going to be a great hit for all first responders and not. So if you guys like this podcast, please, pass it around, or anyone who's struggling. You guys know where to find me. This is your host, Frank, speaking. You guys can find me at reps_4_responders. And Brad, where can they find you at?
You find me on Instagram at God's Breacher. So let's hit me up on DM there, and we'll chop it up.
Awesome. Again, Brad, thanks for coming on the show, and win, right? What's important now? Have a hell of a day to have a hell of a day.